Hello and welcome to Faithfully Stampin' with Jennifer Helm. I am Jennifer Helm, the Faithful Stamper, and I'm an independent demonstrator with Stampin' Up! Today I have for you two fun techniques. And they're fun because they're easy and they're also a little different. The main item that you can use to create these cards is something you find in your kitchen, which is not normally the place you go for craft supplies. We are going to make this card, and I'll show you one other, and the key ingredient is wax paper. I saw a demonstrator do the second technique, I'll show you a bit later on, and I thought, what else can you do with wax paper? And so this is another technique, and we're gonna start with this one because it's a little more labor intensive. I mean, not really, it's just gonna take a little bit of time, not much. And then I'll show you the other one. So let us go ahead and get started. The background here is what we are going to make using the wax paper. So to start, I'm going to bring over a piece of scrap paper because we're definitely going to need this to keep your workspace clear. And then I am using a panel of basic white 5 1/4 by 4. Let me move up here a little bit. This is very simple. Might take you longer to pick your colors than to do anything else. Always takes me a little bit to work on that. So I picked 3 colors because I wanted kind of jungly colors and colors that would work with a baby card. So I am using 3 colors: Coastal Cabana, Garden Green, and Lemon Lime Twist. So what you need is a piece of wax paper. It could be a little bit smaller than this. There's no set size. You just need to crumple it up and make a ball. You can roll it around a little bit. What you are looking for is kind of the nooks and crannies. You don't want something that looks like this, which is a major flat spot without a lot of texture to it, because that's just going to give you a big old flat ink spot. So sometimes what I'll do is I'll crumple it, open it up, and then re-crumple it to try and make sure I've got lots of nooks and crannies here. Then I'm going to pick a color to start with, and I'm going to use Calypso Coral. And one advantage to the scrap paper is you can test it before you start. So a dab, it's almost like using a dauber or a sponge. And if you're happy with how it looks, start dabbing. I'm just randomly going to dab all over. And then when I'm happy, I'm going to move on to my next color. Now, you can try to wipe this with your chamois. Here, I've got mine handy. Let's see if I can do it. Kind of sort of worked. I'm not really planning on using the same wax paper to mix and match my colors. So I like to just sit it here like this and move it off to the side. And that way, if I need to come back and add a little more Coastal Cabana, I can do that without having to start over with another piece of wax paper. So piece number 2. See, and you can tell you really don't need a whole lot of surface, just enough to grab onto. And we'll use Granny Apple Green this time. What I think is interesting about this is each time you crumple up your wax paper, you will have a different look. This one's definitely given some interesting texture. And that's okay, I like it. All right. So another color off to the side. I'm not a big fan of having all these inks open at once, but only because I'm on camera, and I'm really good at dropping things in them or sticking my sleeve or fingers or cardstock in them. Okay. So just keep dabbing until you are happy with your panel. You could use this in a strip on a card. You could do the whole panel like I'm doing. Lots of different ways to try. And I even actually thought about going back with a 4th color, maybe Lemon Lolly or Soft Seafoam, something that coordinates but is very pale, and using a blending brush and kind of doing an all over background look. I actually only tried this on white cardstock, but you could definitely try with a light color if you wanted. And let's see, I think that one I'm gonna call good. I want to come back with a little more blue because those greens kind of took over. So that's why I keep my wax paper handy. Crumple it up a little bit. Okay. And sometimes you're heavy-handed and sometimes you're like, ooh, stuck my fingers right in the ink. See, this is why I don't keep my ink pads open. And also why I recommend keeping a package of baby wipes handy, because this can get a little messy. Okay, so we're going to start with some stamping now to work on the rest of the card. I changed the color of the card base for this one. I'm using Granny Apple Green instead of Coastal Cabana, just for something a little bit different. So I'm going to put my panel here on the front. And while I have my inks out, I'm going to go ahead and do my envelope and my inside piece, and then I can start putting together. So I am going to bring over my Stampin' Pierce mat. Almost all the stamps I'm using today are photopolymer, which means they don't have that built-in cushion. So I'm just going to use my Stampin' Pierce mat to help with that. The stamps that I'm using for everything except the inside sentiment is Silly Safari. This is one of our new stamp sets in our annual catalog, which just came out at the beginning of the month, May 2025. This is actually a $1 Million Achiever set, which means it was designed by a consultant who sold $1 million. I am way, way far away from that, but this is Sherry Casper's set. And this was one that jumped out at me as soon as I saw it in the catalog. And this is the first time I've gotten to play with it, so it's fun. I decided to go with the baby card theme. So, let's see. Inside, I'm going to take another piece of 5 1/4 by 4 and go back to my garden green ink. One of the stamps in the set is kind of a fern. So I'm going to use that. Again, keeping my scrap paper handy so I can stamp off on the edges. Inside sentiment is from a retired set. We don't have a slew of baby sentiments at the moment, and they all kind of say the same thing. So I didn't want welcome baby and hello baby on the same card. So feel free to dig for your sentiment if need be. So there's the inside piece. And then the envelope. So I'm going to come back with a fern and just stamp a couple there. Keep it all themed together, right? Now, I'm going to go ahead and work on the pieces to put on the front of the card. And then I'm going to do a little more stamping. I'll show you why in a minute. I'm getting ahead of myself. So I'm using 2 punches tonight. This is our 2 3/8 of an inch circle punch. And then our main piece is going to be 2 1/4. Be sure to check out our online category on our website, which I'm totally hiding right now, but let me move that down a little so you can see. The Faithful Stamper, .stampinup.net. There we go. I think that's a little better. Some of our punches, including some of our circle punches, are online. So you might look at the catalog and think, well, you don't have many punches. Go look online. There's more. Okay, so this one, we're going to use Granny Apple Green ink and our adorable little zebra. I had a hard time deciding which animal I wanted to do for this card. Let's see. I'm done all the stamping off the page, so I can move this to the side for now and leave that green ink for just a minute. Oh, I was gonna say my adhesive has gone walkabout and it was looking me right in the face. It seems to be happening to me a lot more lately. I don't like it. So these two I'm going to layer together. And what I'm going to do, normally I don't glue my panels down until I'm all done with stamping, but I think I can risk it here today. So glue your panel on the front of the card. And actually, I'm going to go ahead and glue the inside one in right now, and that way that'll be done. Oh, and I forgot one bit of stamping, but we'll get to that in just a second. Okay, so I want to put my zebra focal point here on the card, but I thought it would be nice just to add a little bit more texture, depth So I'm gonna go back to that fern stamp and my Granny Green ink and add some ferns. I'm actually gonna raise them up a little bit because I do have a banner that I wanna add. That's the piece I've forgotten. And on one of my samples, you couldn't see the ferns very well after that because I didn't budget space. So we'll see if I did better today. But see, that just adds a little bit more to it. And so this was the banner I was talking about. I knew I needed my Stampin' Pierce mat for one more thing. This, I'm just going to grab that Welcome Baby stamp. Bless me. Ooh, pardon. That is the second week in a row I have sneezed on a video. Ooh. My apologies. And you got the double, which is how I usually sneeze. Does anybody else sneeze in multiples? I do it all the time. All right, now I'm gonna close up my inks before I stick anything in them. So thanks for bearing with me. That's all done. All right. So, perfect. I did better that time. I'm going to grab dimensionals. Here we go. And let's see. I want to just be a little careful where I put my dimensionals because I want to leave enough room that I can tuck this banner in. So I'm going to do them a little bit different than I normally would, just to make sure I can still put that banner where I want. Put this down a little lower. Little adhesive on the back of the banner, which I don't think I mentioned. This is from the Stylish Shapes die set. I can't say that fast, or sometimes it sounds like I'm going to say something I shouldn't on camera. But it is one of my favorite sets. It has circles, squares, and banners with the beautiful stitching detail. So be sure to check those out. Now, a little bling, right? We have our new holographic resin dots. These I thought were perfect because they kind of just pull the color right out of the paper and add a little bling, a little fancy color. So I'm just gonna add a couple of these where I think it needs it. I probably hem and haw more about my dimensional placement than, or my embellishment placement than anything else. Okay, I think I'm happy with that. So just like that, my card is done. And you can see it'll look different every time, just depending on how much ink. You can see here, I obviously did a lot more inking here than here, which is why I went with those ferns, but still the same great effect. So let me show you a couple more samples using this technique, and then we'll talk about the second one. Here's just another example of how the cards can look very different. And you can change up the orientation too. This is one I did very much the same, just turned the card sideways. Obviously, you have lots of color combinations to choose from. This is one of our new online exclusive. Sunrise Sailing is the name of the bundle. Has this great sailboat. So I was thinking kind of Memorial Day's coming soon, 4th of July, red, white, and blue. This is a retirement card. And then I couldn't decide whether I wanted to go straight up and down or crooked. So I did this one a little bit askew, but otherwise, and I switched up the colors a little bit and made that one a congratulations card. So fun there. And again, you can just see the difference in the stamping, how different that looks each time. And for this one, let me see if I can find it. I embellished the envelope. Now I'm not going to be able to find my envelope. Oh, here it is, here it is. I even used the stamping on the envelope. It's just a fun little thing. There wasn't a small stamp in the set that I really wanted to put on the envelope, so I went with more wax paper stamping. All right, next up, a little bit different, a fun fold. So this one, I have the stamping on the background here. I layered the oval inside first, and then after I cut the card front, added an embossed piece of cardstock, and then layered these ovals here on the front to line up perfectly. I just made sure I was gluing them here on the panel, added some flowers and some bling. And again, you can see just the differences in the cards based on the amount of ink here and then placement of different colors and flowers. Just a fun little card. Okay, so these are the first technique, using the wax paper stamping. But you can actually use wax paper in another way on your cards, and that is to emboss it. So I saw another demonstrator do this recently, and I thought, this is so simple. Sometimes you don't have vellum, or like me, you misplaced it and you couldn't find it for several weeks, maybe even months. And I was so annoyed because I didn't have vellum to use with projects, and I could have done this had I known about it. So all I did was I cut and squared my piece of wax paper, and then I placed it inside an embossing folder and ran it through my cut and emboss machine, and then added it to my card. So here is a sweet little card using our turtle set. I did want to mention it was easier for me to put the adhesive on this Granny Apple Green piece of cardstock and then lay the wax paper on it. Trying to get my tape runner to stick to the wax paper was not working. It was trying to peel back off. But if you put it on the cardstock and then press it down, it will adhere. So, and you can put your adhesive underneath something. It may show through depending on the type of adhesive you're using. So you can camouflage it with a strip of cardstock or some carefully placed glue dots, for example, and that works. And just here is another version of our little turtle card. These turtles are so fun. I've been using a lot of my turtle paper to fussy cut out these little guys and gals. I just noticed this one looks a little bit sunburned. Okay. And another example of embossing is this next card. Now, I'm going to admit this one is not my favorite. I don't exactly like the look of the wax paper. It kind of, I just don't like the look. But I decided to roll with it because this was what I had in my head. I added some ribbon and some pearls. Otherwise, it's very simple. It's just 2 strips of designer series paper, the block of cardstock with the wax paper embossed and then glued on top, ribbon added before I glued it down, and then the pearls, and a matching strip inside for an anniversary card. I needed a couple anniversary cards later this week, so I thought I would go ahead and use that. But what I discovered was, I think the reason I don't like it is because of the dark cardstock. I made coordinating envelope. I did a second card with a different embossing folder, and I laid it directly on the bubble bath, which is the light pink here. I like this so much better. So I think this card, maybe with a lighter cardstock behind, would be a totally different look and one that I'd probably be a smidge happier with. But either way, they're both beautiful cards, and it was fun to experiment with different embossing folders. So there is a second technique you can try with some wax paper you can find from your kitchen. So I hope you enjoyed learning how to make some fun backgrounds for your cards with wax paper, or add a different element with texture to your cards with something you can find in your kitchen. If you have not already subscribed to the page, I would love to have you as part of my subscriber community. You can click the notification bell and get notified each time a video is posted here on the page. You can also follow me on Facebook. I'm The Faithful Stamper. I share lots more there, videos, random prize drawings, challenges, and just a lot more information about different projects and products. So I'd be happy to have you there as well. Thank you so much for tuning in. Take care and happy crafting.